Good morning, and good morning to all our millennials who are also farmers. It's amazing how the pandemic has really made farming or even urban gardening something part of our everyday life. I was saying in my Instagram last night that I've been planting for so long. Definitely, I'm far, far away in age and years and experience from our guests today, our panel, who will tell us about the kind of farming they do, the kind of gardening they do. I want to learn from them. I want to see whether my loss of ecological solid waste management or even renewable energy and even climate change have impacted on the young of our country, or whether they know about it at all. Well, this Stories for a Better Normal is a webinar, a Zoom, which is streamed on Facebook Live every Thursday at 10 o'clock with my office and the Climate Change Commission and the Mother Earth Foundation. Sonia Mendoza is online once again, and the Institute of Climate and Sustainable Cities and Climate Reality Philippines. We just had our climate leaders the other week. I'm so glad to have our young millennial farmers, or maybe if you don't want to be called that, tell us what you want to be called. So we were supposed to have Attorney Paula Aberasturi. I'm not sure if she's online. Attorney Ipat Luna is also with us with the DNR, because both the DNR and the Department of Agriculture are also our partners in this webinar. In the past weeks, we've tackled sustainable mobility and the importance of giving way not just to pedestrians, but also those who don't have cars, those who can't take public transport and want to be solo on a bicycle. So that is what we need to demand of government, demand of developers, to provide space for those who need and who want to bike, which is healthier and more sustainable. We've also focused on farming, permaculture, organic farming. We've also focused on culinary heritage and the connection between farms and planting herbs and vegetables to our indigenous cuisine and our culinary heritage. This is all borne out by my bill, hopefully soon to be enacted into law, which was passed on second reading and soon to be passed on third reading in the House of Representatives. What is this? This is the Better Normal Act. It was originally entitled the New Norm Bill, but retitled into the Better Normal, and much of it are environmental and climate provisions. But I can talk on and on about legislation and all the work I do, but this time I'd like to hear the voice of our young. First, is what you're doing climate resilient and a form of adaptation? Second, teach us about the kind of farming you do. We know much, but there's much, much more to learn. So I'd like to just mention the names and tell us briefly what you do, and with questions later. This is interactive, and much of our messages from Facebook hopefully will be read today. I know that it is the, let me see, it is the session day of Antique, which I represent, and I convinced board member Dimamay, I believe she's with us today. Let me see, board member Dimamay, are you with us? She is in session in the legislative building in San Jose Antique, or are you in your farm in Tibiao? We have board member Karmila Rose Dimamay. You know, instead of me reading your bio and what I know of you, perhaps before you go to session, and you can join us a while and I can ask you a few questions, tell us about the papaya. Naiingit ako sa kanya mga papaya. Gusto rin niya padala sa akin sa Maynila, pero MECQ kami. Organic ba yung papaya mo? Hi. Yes, board member S. Sangguniang Panlalawigan Rose, Karmila Rose Dimamay. All the way in Antique. Sa mga nanonood sa Antique,
hello.
Duro-duri, salamat sa inyong panood sa ating Stories for a Better Normal. Are you with us, Karmila?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Good morning. Good morning,
Hi, good morning.
speaker. Thank you for inviting me today, this morning. And actually, I am grateful for this opportunity to be able to share my advocacy in sustainable backyard gardening. So that's it. Probably a brief introduction. As you mentioned, I am an incumbent board member in the province of Antique, and I started backyard gardening because when Antique was struck by Typhoon Yolanda, I've noticed that we need to encourage people to be food sufficient in times of calamities and disasters. And it turned into a farm from backyard garden. So that's how it goes.
Ayan. Very good. Is this a family farm or a farm of your mother or ikaw ang nag-develop ng farm ninyo? And how big is it? At anong mga tanim mo? Meron ka bang pictures that you can share with us? You have very nice pictures you sent me on your on your red papaya. At ano ba yung species na tinatanim mo na red papaya? Anong diferensya niyan sa mga solo papaya na ating kinakain dito?
Actually, ma'am, that farm belongs to me. Akin yon. Actually, it's just at the back of the house. I bought that lot before when I was still working abroad. So I developed it into a mini farm. It's
Very
1 hectare. It's 1 hectare. And later in the slides, there are pictures showing I planted quick matured plants, which is eggplant, chili, okra, and the sort. Then red lady papaya because I planted it because that's the papaya I wanted to eat actually. Because
Very good.
it's personal consumption. That's the reason.
Very good. Very good tayo. We actually plant what we want to eat. Imbis na bilhin natin sa grocery o supermarket o sa palengke, 'di ba? Ito alam natin organic at malinis. So, you grow your own food. Ako, that's my mantra. I grow my own food. Bakit ka bibili ng gulay? Okay. We'll get back to you. We also have Enzo Pinga. Alam mo, ang papa ko ay taga San Pablo, Laguna. Ang mama ko ang taga-Antique, na kababayan nila board member Dimamay. Actually, lola ko. Yan ang mga Helya. Ang papa ko, ang Cabrera, kasi Cabrera Legarda, ang papa ko, ay taga San Pablo. Natutuwa ako na ang una at pangalawang guest natin ay sa mga probinsya ng aking mga magulang. At hindi ko to plinano ng ganito, nagkataon na sila yung mga millennial farmers na siyang guest natin ngayon. Except of course, si board member Milay, when I was talking to her, texting the other night and sharing with her the accomplishments in Antique, sabi ko, sali ka sa millennial farmers. So, Enzo, gusto ko magpunta sa San Pablo. Marami dyan mga little farms. And in fact, just before the ECQ in March, I even inaugurated one of my projects there, which is an old house. Iba pa naman yun sa aking advocacy of farming and gardening, yung restoration of old structures, which I did in San Pablo, which I continue to do in Antique. So may we hear from the founder of, is it Earth? I don't have my glasses. Are you here with us?
Yes, good morning, Deputy
Yes,
Speaker.
good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Hi.
Earthbeat Farms. So
Earthbeat, yes, okay.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Enzo Pinga, the founder of Earthbeat Farms, and to be honest, I'm not from San Pablo. That's where the opportunity was. So we don't have any roots in San Pablo, but the city does have its own charm with all the ancestral
Yes.
houses and the little farms and the little organic farms around. So yeah, we happen to find the opportunity in San Pablo.
Tell us, anong tinatanim mo, Enzo?
So we were planting mainly vegetables and fruiting trees. No? So we really focused on the high value crops, such as different.
And you do this for commercial purposes, or you grow your own food to eat, like Karmila?
Commercial. It was for commercial purposes. Yeah.
Is this a family enterprise o ikaw ang nag-isip as your own business? Or was it your parents who convinced you to get into farming?
It was my own idea to get it started and to found it. And well, I did have some partner investors involved. So it was a corporation. And yeah, that it was something that the idea of farming grew on me. And so we were serving mga hotels, restaurants, and consumers in Manila.
Very good. Of course, you know Patis Tesoro. She used to be a designer based in Metro Manila, but siyang una yata nagbalik probinsya 10, 15 years ago, and she
Yeah.
has her farm in San Pablo. Hindi ko alam kung nabisita mo na yon.
Yes, I've
But she's
visited a few times, yes, and
yes,
ate in a
she's also
restaurant.
into farming and permaculture and very passionate about it, right? So
Yes.
whether you are a millennial or a midlifer like me, or someone a bit older like Patis, but young at heart, farming is something really close to our heart. Now, we have a chief farming officer. I always read about Teraoka. Is it the right pronunciation? It's a family farm. So, Raphael Dacones. Rafi, tama ba ang aking pag-pronounce ng, is it Teraoka? How come it sounds Japanese? So, mula sa Kabisayaan hanggang sa Luzon, sa Calabarzon, ngayon naman sa Norte tayo. So, Teraoka Farm, Rafi, paliwanag mo sa amin, is it a Japanese technology? Is it a Japanese name, or it just sounds Japanese? And what is the kind of technology you use for your farm? Rafi.
Well, yeah, good morning, Deputy Speaker, and morning,
Morning.
everyone. It's called Teraoka Farms because my mom is Japanese. It's her last name. So yeah,
Very
it's a
good.
half Japanese, half Filipino farm, and I founded the farm probably around 5 years ago. And yeah, so it's more of like organic farming, since we're the first in Region 1 to be certified organic by a third party certifier. And yeah, we're more on commercial farming, and we cater mostly to the metro.
Very good. Anong mga gulay ang mga tinatanim mo sa organic farm ng Teraoka?
So usually, yeah, we plant the typical salad greens from your basic salad greens like romaine, kale, arugula, and we also try to focus on native crops, which is very endemic to the Philippines, because we want to promote how awesome our Philippine produce is, and how we should always go back to normal, like how we should support local produce, because it grows well in the Philippines, and I think
That's true.
we should
This morning, if I may say, I wish I could share it. I always have salad in the morning. My friends say, huh? Bakit? Usually tanghalian yung dinner. Ako hindi. Salad greens. It could be romaine lettuce. It could be with arugula, with one soy, with coriander, with parsley, with anything. Pwede pang talinom. Maski basta may salad greens. Linagyan ko ngayon ng aking dragon fruit at meron pa akong bignay. Kasi talaga multi-crop eh. Ako kasi ang aking philosophy, for every square meter of land you do not plant on, that could feed a hungry family. And important when you grow your own food, whether for your family or like board member Karmila, kasi yun ang gusto niyang kainin, or para sa family enterprise or commercial purposes like Teraoka Farms and Rafi in San Pablo. Now we go to the indie farms. I want to know what an indie farm, I know indie movies, but an indie farm. Stephanie Mendiola, a farm manager and founder of Indie Farms in Silang, Cavite. Ayan. So, represented tayo, ang Region 1 nandyan, ang Region 4A, dalawa, at meron tayo sa Kabisayaan. Hello, Stephanie. It says that you want to transform your monocrop farm into multi-cropping. Tell us, if it's monocrop, what do you plant? And how old are you, Stephanie?
Okay, magandang umaga sa lahat.
Hi, magandang umaga.
I just turned 30, and the reason why Indie Farms yung pangalan ng farms is because I turned 30 last June 12. So parang instead of naming it after me or after my family name, diba? Parang tama. So parang going back to local, going back to our roots, ginawa ko Indie Farms na lang. Short for Independencia Farms.
Very good. Okay. So it has nothing to do with, similar to Indie Farm. Tell us, ano ang mga tinatanim mo sa Indie Farm? Kasi nakalagay na from monocrop, tinatransform mo yung iyong farm. Anong transformation ang gusto mong gawin at what do you do now?
Okay, so dati kasi puro lettuce farm lang. Puro lettuce lang yung tinatanim namin, from green eyes to red lettuce, romaine. So 3 varieties lang. And then, little by little, dumadami rin yung mga farms sa Silang. All of them were doing lettuce. So, with the supply and demand, we were selling little and little, and we were having so much overproduction of lettuce that even my farmers didn't know how to really eat lettuce. Parang hindi rin naman sila kumakain ng salad eh. Diba? It's not native to our food or to our menu. So,
Ibang klaseng lettuce, you can also plant kale, maski ano, pwedeng itanim naman sa mga plot natin, di ba? Oo.
yeah, so exactly. So my cousin is the owner and co-founder of Take Root Kale Chips. So they found out, we did a sample plot for kale, and then they liked it. So we started growing kale for them. So it became lettuce
Very
and
good.
kale. And then we
Very
found
good.
another wholesale buyer for arugula. So it became lettuce, arugula, and kale. And then I started retailing to Manila straight to the customer na. And they were asking me, do you have something more than lettuce and kale and arugula? Kasi we're not goats. We need more. So we started growing eggplant. We started growing dragon fruit. We started growing wansoy, parsley, all of these herbs.
Very good.
So by retailing straight to the customer, we realized that we could grow more. Like you said,
Yes.
a square foot can feed a family. So
Yes.
the more diverse our crops became, the more we could sell. And even
Very
for the
good.
farmers, the more they were happy kasi all of the extra crops went to them, went to their own household. Hindi lang lettuce ngayon. So may mga
Alam nyo,
talong, may
yes,
pepino.
exactly. Exactly. Yung bahay kubo vegetables, di ba? Ang dali-daling
Mm-mm.
itanim.
Mm-mm.
In fact, pati magturo ka lang ng isang tangkay ng malunggay, tutubo na yan. Ako,
Exactly.
if I may say before I bring it back to the millennials, mula sa lemon tree hanggang sa puno ng malunggay, mula sa kale hanggang sa saluyot, mula, ito katabi ko lang, ang aking kalamansi at ang aking kutsay, ang aking balimbing at ang aking coriander at ang aking pandan at ang citronella at ang lemongrass. Siguro, in fact, naka-database ako, talagang nama-maximize ko yung maliit na lupa, sinisiksik ko hanggang sa mga recycled na bote, lata at plastic, tinatamnan ko, maski na kangkong lang na tutuhugin ko, tapos tutubo na siya. Tapos ilang linggo nakakain na namin, hanggang alugbati. Akin ang top 3 vegetables, kangkong, alugbati at saka talbos ng kamote. Sa panahon ng pandemya mula nung Marso, yun ang talagang yumabong at yun ang kinakain namin araw-araw. Pero it's not for me to talk about my farm. I'd like to go back. Thank you, Stephanie. We'll get back to you, to Karmila. Okay, meron ka mga art cards or letrato, board member Dimamay, ng iyong red papaya para naman makabili kami. Magkano bang 1 kilo niyan? At ano ang ginagawa mo sa daang-daang kilo ng harvest? Sa Antique, sa atin, napakaraming gulay at mga prutas. Meron ka bang merkado para sa iyong mga pananim? At sa inyong mga harvest at mga tanim mo?
Actually, it's more of online. I'm posting at my Facebook page, then they message me of their order and they resell it. So I don't really have to go full marketing because yung 80 kilos, most of the time kulang pa. So actually in my presentation, actually, I will gonna talk about my journey, how I started advocating backyard gardening into income generating kind of farm. So,
okay, proceed. Go ahead.
So, first, probably I would just like to greet all mga kasimano ko nga naga-turek. Good morning or mayad gid nga aga kaninyo nga tanan. I started actually, we know for a fact that climate change, causes typhoon to be much more stronger. And we have experienced that in Northern Antique. In 2013, I was a municipal councilor then. And when I go around, I've noticed that during calamities and disasters, all the basic services will be cut off. Nawawala po yung kuryente, nawawala po yung tubig. And one of the thing is, yung normal food chain po, napuputol po yon. So if you can see, I've shared a picture. Kung makikita nyo, puno po ng harang yung mga kalsada. So that's the problem. Hindi po natin masusustain yung delivery ng food kasi block yung mga roads. So that's a realization na may mga family akong nakikita na they are growing their own food. and growing their own food, they can sustain their food need during time of disaster. So it started as an advocacy that the communities from my town should have a backyard wherein they can get food in time of pandemic, in time of calamity, and of course disaster. So at that time, I bought big packs of seeds and I repacked it and I distributed to people. But the thing is, it's a hard sell. They don't like to plant. So what I did is, I need to lead by example. I need to walk my talk. So I started my own backyard garden at that time just because I really wanted to encourage them to plant their own garden or to have their own vegetables because I've noticed, sabi ka kanina ni DSL, nung time ng pandemic, yung mga kangkong, talbos ng kamote, that sustained them, that sustained her family. So sa Antique, it can sustain as well the families. So I started my own backyard with quick maturing plants. Yung mga plants po na you can harvest in 30 to 45 days. Next slide, please. So, I planted pechay. I planted okra. Next slide, please. I planted sitaw. And then I also planted eggplant. Next slide. Okay. So that's actually when I started backyard gardening. So nakakatuwa kasi after 30 days, 45 days, you can actually mafe-feel mo na yung saya na nakaka-harvest ka na. So you will be invigorated, more encouraged to plant more. So what I did, because this is an advocacy, I documented and shared my experience online. I'm posting it on Facebook that daily, every morning and every afternoon, I go to my garden. And from there, next slide, please. More and more people are now encouraged to plant. So they are requesting me requesting me from seeds or seedlings. So ito yung mga ibang nagpo-post sa akin, nagpapasalamat sa seeds na binigay ko, and they are sharing actually their backyard garden and their produce on their Facebook. So, and I am thankful that start from that small advocacy. Right now, with the help of UP Antiqueño, the alumni of University of the Philippines in the Visayas, together with Pag-Ulikid Pamatanan, shout out to all of them, together with the SK presidents of Bugasong, we've launched the Gulayan sa Barangay Project, wherein we encourage them, the youth, to plant or to start their own backyard garden. So next slide, please. So from that advocacy, during the time of pandemic, I have time in my hands, and I said, what can I do with my time, because all the public activities and the meetings were canceled. So I hired one person to help me out in the farm. One person who lost his job because of the pandemic. And the first thing we did is, because I really wanted it to be all organic, if you've noticed the picture on the right, it's actually vermicompost. So yung mga rice straw na kinukuha ko sa mga kabilang farm, then yung mga vegetable peels, fruit peels, doon yung nilalagay ko. Then I bought African nightcrawler para wala na kaming waste. So next slide, please. So from that small backyard garden, ito na siya ngayon. That's an aerial view of the farm. So we planted around 500 at that time of red lady papaya, because I really love red lady because it helps me maintain my weight. Kasi if you know, papaya is actually help you lose weight. So next slide, please. So actually, I made this it as an integrated farm. In between po ng mga papaya, gumawa pa kami ng plot, at lahat ng mga rice straw na sinusunog lang ng mga katabi ko na farm, hinihingi ko yon kasi parang ayaw ko nang mausok. So what we did, we use it as a natural mulching. So minumulch namin yon para we discourage other farmers na sunugin yon. At the end, pag na-decompose yun na rin yung magiging fertilizer ng farm namin. So in that plot, yung tinanim ko is chili. Next slide, please. So after 2 months, yan yung itsura niyan. I'm harvesting chili with all the other vegetables and the red lady papaya. Next slide, please. So daily, sabi ko nga, we harvested around 60 to 80 kilos. And I don't really have so much time to do the regular marketing. So what I did is, next slide, please. I posted on Facebook. They message me for their order and I prepare it and they come pick it up. So nauubos siya. I don't have to do a lot of work. So next slide, please. These are some of my resellers. So binibili nila sa akin ng 45, binibenta nila ng 60 and more. So that's how it works. So next slide, please. So from an advocacy to income generating. So meron din ako mga fruits, may rambutan, may pomelo, mga ganyan, okra, and so on and so forth. So next slide, please. So I am posting actually the income of my farm to encourage the young people in my locality to please also plant, because me, I'm also earning. Actually, I'm earning daily around 2,000 out of this time. So it's a big amount of money.
Wow.
And
I don't understand. Daily ang harvest mo, 60 to 80 kilos kada
yes,
araw?
Yes, ma'am.
Bakit ang dami?
Kasi
Araw-araw,
marami,
60 to 80. Oo.
marami po kasi akong puno nasa 500.
Sa isang ektarya na lupa, meron kang 500 puno ng papaya.
Yes, ma'am.
Ano ang spasyo in between papaya trees?
Actually, ma'am, hindi ko naubos yung 1 hectare, pero I'm using 2.5 meters to 2.5 meters.
Wow! At mula sa seedling, ilang buwan bago maging fruit-bearing ang red papaya?
Actually,
Red
as in 6 months, you can harvest na and you will continue to harvest in 2 years.
Wow! So, magtanim ka ngayon ng seedling na bibilin mo, magkano isang seedling?
Actually, ako lang po nag-propagate. Binili ko siya sa online.
Okay. Tapos 6 months, pwede ka na mag-harvest. Pero sabi mo, ang harvest mo, araw-araw, 60 to 80 kilos.
Yes, ma'am.
Araw-araw. Unbelievable. Every day. So,
yes. So,
that's 80 times 4, that's 60 per kilo times...
No, ma'am, 45.
That's
45.
O sa mo na, 4 times 6 is 2,400 a day? Just
Yes.
from your papaya? Tapos, nakita ko yung siling labuyo mo, meron din ako niyan, sa pagitan ng papaya mo.
Yes, ma'am.
Amazing! Tapos, 2 taon, sabi mo, wala na yon, hindi na, kailangan magtanim ka ng muli. Ganun ba yun?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yung papaya po.
Again, I'll ask again. Daily, for how long will this daily harvest of 60 to 80 kilos a day?
So actually, yung lifespan po ng papaya is 2 years. So you will be harvesting for 1 year and 6 months. Straight po yon.
Straight na araw-araw, 365 days in a year, tag-init
Yes po, ma'am.
man or bagyo?
Yes
Totoo?
Yung bagyo po, ma'am. Yung bagyo po, ma'am, ginawa ko, I prepared for it na kasi makikita mo later in the picture, nilagyan ko na siya ng mga tukod, yung kawayan po. At tinali ko na siya.
Natutuwa ako. Gusto ko. Yan, alam mo, sa lahat ng mga binanggit natin kanina, yung red lady papaya ang wala ako. Meron akong papayang regular. Pero nakakatuwa na hindi pa man natamnan ang buong isang ektarya, ay kumikita ka ng 2,000 isang araw. Pwede ka nang mag-retiro. Di ba? Parang ang trabaho mo, kampante ang isip mo sa paggagawa ng mga panukalang batas sa ating probinsya, at meron kang parang vendo machine ng pera sa mga red papaya na benta mo. Nakakatuwa. Natutuwa ako. O sige, patuloy. Yes,
okay. So actually, one of the advocacy aside from food sufficiency, sinasabi ko the climate change. Kasi 'di ba, yung climate change wreak havoc because lumalakas yung mga bagyo. So I told people the one way na locally sourced food or how growing your own food help in our collective fights against climate change. So sinasabi ko, if locally sourced food or food from your backyard is zero waste. Next slide, please. So you cut down on your carbon footprint kasi fewer carbon emissions in the air. You don't transport actually your food, your produce. Next slide,
Yes.
please. And of course, in waste management po, sinasabi ko, meron po akong vermicompost, then some of it, ginagawa kong soil composting. So it all goes back to the nature po. So next slide, please, to end. So yan po, makikita nyo may mga tukod-no po siya. Ganyan kadami po yung bunga ng papaya. So imagine in one tree, tapos 500 na ganyan. So it's justifiable that you can harvest 60 to 80 po.
Nakakatuwa. So you can go to session now. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you,
I will
ma'am.
call you later because I will find out the seedlings that you planted. Napakasipag mag-bloom at not mag-bloom, magbigay ng prutas at mukhang magandang klase. Kasi for our other millennial farmers, alam nyo, Antique, ang yaman-yaman ng lupa. Nung panahon ng pandemya, alam na yan ni board member, ginawa namin ni Governor Tibiao, binili namin lahat ng mga produce ng mga upland farmers, yung mga hindi makalabas ng bahay, pagkaon para sa tanan. At yan ay linagay natin sa bagsakan sa mga poblasyon at pinamigay sa mga barangay na nawalan ng trabaho at baka walang makain. Kaya hindi nagugutom ang mga tao sa Antique. Una, dahil mataba ang lupa. Pangalawa, ay nagtatanim. At pangatlo, meron tayong proyekto na pag hindi mabenta ay binibili para ipamigay sa mga nagugutom. Kaya hindi dapat delata ang pinamimigay. Dapat organic produce o mga gulay. Thank you very much, Board Member Dimamay of my beloved home province. I am missing Antique so much. Pero alam naman ng mga tao na sa panahon ng pandemya, dito yung trabaho at hindi ako makalipad dyan because of the lockdown. But thank you, and we will listen to our other farmers now. You can go to session and tell them you're late. Tell them you're late. Tell Vice Governor Denosta you're late because of me. Hindi ka papagalitan nun, I hope. Okay, bye. Salamat.
Bye-bye.
Okay. We now proceed to San Pablo. Ayan. Tignan natin ang ating family farm sa San Pablo. Do we have Enzo with us in Earthbeat? Tell us, how do you do your farm? Yung kay Board Member Dimamay ay isang backyard farming. Yung sa iyo ay commercial farming. We listen to your presentation.
Yeah, good morning once again, Deputy Speaker, and everyone watching, tuning in. Yeah, so in San Pablo, Earthbeat Farms, we were focusing on mainly high-value, unique salad greens and fruiting trees. And this is something that was with the idea of supplying the Metro Manila market. Right. So once again, my name is Enzo Pinga. So I founded Earthbeat Farms back in 2015, and currently I'm with the enterprise solutions team at my kuya. And so I will talk about how from before starting the farm and how I got here today. So I wasn't like I mentioned earlier, Earthbeat Farms is not a family operation. This is something that I founded, that I took the initiative to begin, and this was born out of the fondness and the passion for farming was born out of my previous venture of building aquaponic systems. So we were building aquaponic systems for communities. So for those that are unfamiliar with aquaponics, it's a combination of hydroponics and aquaculture. So we were able to grow fish, tilapia. We were planting tilapia and plants together in a single system. And we built a number of these setups around Manila and then branched out later to different provinces. So my exposure to organic farms in the provinces, and also seeing the state of agriculture around the Philippines, and also learning more about the market demands in Manila, this led me to start Earthbeat Farms. And so what I want to focus on throughout this session is the business of farming. So farming has a bit of a barrier to entry. You need land, you need puhunan, right? You need access to manpower, right? And so the venture must be treated as a business. And as I mentioned earlier, also Earthbeat Farms was formed as a corporation, right? There are different business units, suppliers, customers, operations, logistics, employees, just like any company. And this is something that is often missing or often lost when people talk about successful agribusiness and starting their own farms. So there are a number of key lessons here that I learned throughout the journey. Now, number one, farmers are the backbone of the society, right? And the pandemic and the quarantine only highlights this even further, right? So the pandemic highlighted the need to be healthy and for proper nourishment. So aside from good habits of washing your hands and wearing your mask and sanitizing your environment, we need to be healthy. We first need to maintain our own health, and having the proper nutrition and food is a huge part of that. The pandemic also highlighted how important farmers are to the society, right? Maybe pre-COVID we were in many ways taking them for granted, and during the lockdown, during ECQ, all of a sudden there were a lot of the produce was not able to come to Manila. Maybe some areas experience inflation in prices due to the drop in supply, and also just the need for, since a lot of the restaurants and other food options have closed, people had to start cooking their own food, and access to these ingredients was very key. And and um, the pandemic also further highlighted how farmers are everyday frontliners. Frontliners now are in the spotlight, especially in the healthcare industry. But farmers are the frontliners every day, 24/7. When we were operating the farm, there was no holiday. There's no work from home. We always have to tend to our crops in order to feed people and also to keep the operation running, right? The second key lesson is that we have a long way to go in educating the market, right? So there's in educating the market in terms of the right kind of food, and also where the produce is coming from. This is also a chicken and egg situation where the accessibility, making good food accessible to the market, and also the demands and consumption. Because if there's not enough demand, we won't be producing good food. But if the good food is pricing the market out, it's inaccessible, and the demand for this also goes down. So there's a balance that we have to hit to make sure that there's an equilibrium, right, in the market. And lastly, the current system does not support the small farmers. Like, sad it is to say, but this is how it's been running, and this is something that also was an objective when founding Earthbeat Farms. The small farmers are most affected, right, by different natural disasters, by the pandemic. They're most affected because they can't get their goods to the proper market, or if there's an oversupply, they're the most affected because they don't control the prices of their produce. Right? So they're the most affected, and they have little means to get out of this dilemma. So those in the current system, those that are risking the most are rewarded the least. Unfortunately.
Yeah, Enzo, excuse me. Tell
Yes.
us, how many hectares is your farm in San Pablo? And I correct myself, it's not a family enterprise, it's your own. How many farms, and do you do multi-cropping? And what are the agroecology practices that you
Yeah.
can teach us so that the others who are watching us can also learn from what you're doing?
Yeah. Next slide, please. So our farm is 1 hectare, and like I said, we started with vegetables and fruiting trees, right? So we started it with the idea of, number one, one of the objectives is to do things, is to promote real regenerative farming practices. So what does this mean? It's when people say organic, sorry, previous slide, please. When people say organic, it's just the idea of, sorry, one more slide back. The idea of not using chemicals, right? So but that's not what real organic farming is. Organic farming is replenishing the soil, and is putting into the soil more than you take out of it, right? So this is where we call regenerative farming practices, and this is a huge it plays a huge role in mitigating climate change, right? Because regenerative farming practices keeps carbon in the soil. the second objective of Earthbeat Farms is to inspire youth to enter farming. So we did that by different mentorship of OJT interns, of doing different events and really engaging with youth to encourage them to get into farming, because the objective is that we need to show that farming is a viable livelihood. Otherwise, we will run out of farmers. The children of the farmers don't want to enter agriculture because they see that they can't create a good life out of it. The third objective of Earthbeat Farms is to help provide access to market. So we started partnering with different partner farms located in other areas, and also get link them to the market that needs their produce, and that reduces the layers that they have to go through in order to market their produce. Right. So next slide, please. So those are the three main objectives of Earthbeat Farms, and it's been a very good learning experience. Learning about the state of agriculture and the plight of our farmers. And this has led me today to my kuya, where we offer services on demand, and so this is helping a lot of people, especially during the pandemic now, reaching consumers and enterprises. So we're still very much like all of us, we are all connected to the food system. We eat 3 times a day, or some even more. Me being guilty of that, and so we help people link the produce to where it needs to be.
Yeah.
So we help with
Tell us, Enzo,
Yes.
the produce of your 1 hectare farm, how much of it is eaten by your family, and how much of it is supplied to restaurants and traders that sustains you and your enterprise?
It was mostly supplied to institutions. Yeah, so we would, like, for family consumption, we would only get whatever's left.
Oh, ano ang pinaka marami mong tinatanim sa inyong farm sa San Pablo, Enzo?
Yeah, so it's mainly the unique salad greens, so different varieties of lettuce. Where we were also planting kale for a while, similar to Steph, and different vegetables, eggplants, cucumbers. So it was also very diversified.
Mm. At yung mga elemento ng organic farming at ng permaculture, ng agroecology, gaya ng pagkokolekta ng tubig ulan ay ginagawa ninyo. Pangalawa, mulching.
Yes.
Pangatlo, yung pagtatapon ng food waste at ng dry leaves, etc. para sa organic compost, sa compost pit, and segregation of waste para walang single-use plastic. I would assume that all of our young millennial farmers observe the basic tenets of ecological solid waste, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So from San Pablo, we go to Pangasinan. Meron bang Japanese technology sa Teraoka, or these are all Philippine technology? Actually, minsan indigenous knowledge ang ating ginagawa ay ginagamit sa ating farm. So we go to Teraoka Farms.
Yeah, once again, good morning.
Good morning.
Mostly in our farm, we practice a little Japanese technology, which is bokashi. Bokashi is a way of fermenting compost and using it as fertilizer, using kitchen waste mostly, and also farm waste. But most of our technology is actually indigenous, wherein I consulted with a lot of farmers who actually practice organic farming in the Philippines, because it is more it's more adaptive to our area, to our environment, since Japan and the Philippines is totally different. We both have different climates, and I think practicing more of the indigenous way of farming in the Philippines is more practical for us. But of course, with a little technology involved. So yeah, the farm has been. I started the farm back in 2014 after I came home from Japan. I used to work in Japan for around 4 years. Next slide, please. So yeah, I lived in Japan for 4 years, and from there, I really liked it at first, to the point I didn't really know what to do. So going back home, knowing not knowing what to do, gave me an idea of why not use my grandfather's land since no one actually uses it? And farming struck to me because in Japan, I mean, farmers actually are doing well. They're very not just wealthy, but they're very productive and they're very respected. And I feel that Filipino farmers are always looked down upon. So I wanted to change that in a way that I could by being young, being energetic, and trying to start my own farm on my own and practice organic farming. So yeah, I moved back, resigned from my job, and started farming in my grandfather's land, which I borrowed from him 5 years ago. It was around 500 square meters. So I started with 500 square meters because I really didn't know what I was getting into. I just had stock knowledge. I'd Google stuff. I'd watch videos on YouTube to the point I had an uncle who actually encouraged me to get into organic farming, and I'm very thankful for that. So from that 500 square meter lot, we actually expanded to around during our peak time we are actually around 6 hectares. So from 500 square meters, we actually grew to six.
Wow. Wow. What did you plant in the first 500 square meters?
Oh yeah. So yeah, I started with one small plot. My plot was just a really small plot where I planted lettuce because I really didn't know what I was getting myself into. I thought that planting, just putting the seeds right there would actually make things grow already. And when I did that, nothing was growing and it really started making me wonder like what did I get myself into? To the point that I think being working in Japan for a couple of years taught me so much perseverance and the discipline of trying to get things done. So I never gave up on my whole farming journey. So from that lettuce plot which hasn't grown or yeah, we kept on trying and trying to the point I started planting one variety of lettuce to around five, and then we moved on to different produce, even specialty produce, and we all give it and cater to the metro. And next slide, please. So I'm gonna just show you a couple of photos of my farm and some specialty produce. And aside from that, yeah, we also do trainings for to encourage the youth. These, yeah, like what I see here, like in the pictures right here. We have students who come who want to learn the basics of farming because I think, yeah, the youth is actually the solution to helping the agri sector in the Philippines grow. Because I mean, farming is not fun. It's never fun. It's hard. But if you put a little technology or if you put the right price in produce, I think it will entice more people, especially the youth, to get into farming, like how we did it in Teraoka farms. So we focused on different types of produce, which actually isn't common in our area. We grow beetroot, which people don't really grow. We have
What is
specialty.
that, Rafi?
So the leftmost photo, it's beetroot.
Yeah.
It's sugar beet.
Beetroot. Oh, yes, beetroot.
And then yeah, we try to go with unique produce so that we could be different from the market. And I think native produce is so beautiful and we keep forgetting about it. So let's say the tomatoes. Those are actually native tomatoes which people forget. And look how beautiful they are. I mean, it's very hard to transport, but if you try to find ways to bring it, it tastes wonderful and it's sweet compared to regular native or hybrid tomatoes. Aside from that, yeah, we have the typical romaine, the typical Lola Rosa lettuce. We have red okras. We have different types of produce, and I have to also thank my farmers who actually do the work because I used to farm it back then, but since we started growing, I had to focus myself more on the market side because I mean, how would you grow if you don't have no market? So now I'm so glad that my parents are who are actually retired were encouraged to actually join my whole farming journey. Because at first it was just my mom who supported me all the way. And now my dad, after his whole corporate job, is very into the farm and I have to give it to them because they have been helping and supporting me all the way. And yeah, as you can see, we help also people, especially farmers who want to get into organic farming because they want to learn how to do it and they want to go away from the whole conventional type of farming which is monocropping. We teach them how to intercrop. And actually in our plots, if I could show you the next photo, please. Next slide, please. Yeah, we have different types of produce. If you can see the lower side of the photo, in one plot, we could actually plant around 5 with different varieties. So here we have cucumbers, we have red radish, we have a couple of onion leeks, and some petchay. So I think we have to promote how you could maximize a small amount of area to have maximum profits. And I think that's our model, which we can actually encourage people and especially the youth, that farming is actually a lucrative business if you try to find ways to make money. And
I'd like to know, Rafi, ano yung ginamit mo doon? I see your greenhouse, maganda yung ginawa mo. Ang ginamit mo ay bamboo. Pero itong isa, parang meron kang star or parang bulaklak made out of bamboo. Is it only a design o merong yan ibig sabihin sa agrikultura?
well, since that's a small area which we hardly use, we just decided to make something out of it or make it beautiful. So yeah, we just designed a small like a flower type, but it has actually more than 4 different types of crops planted in that area. So we planted onion leeks, we have lettuce, we have arugula, we have petchay, and we also have herbs like tarragon and sage. Yeah, so yeah, that's just more of a aesthetic point of view.
Okay.
And
Yung 500 square meters mo, ngayon, 6 na hektarya. Ano sa porsyentong yan ang kinakain ng pamilya mo at ng iyong mga kaibigan at ano dyan ang napupunta sa enterprise o sa negosyo na pinagkakakitaan ninyo?
okay, so
Or puro
siguro,
negosyo na lahat ngayon?
siguro pa, like let's say for 500 square meters, we just maybe a couple of yeah, probably our 500 square meters could actually feed my family. My grandfather and my grandmother who live in the farm also can't live without the produce. My lolo just eats all of the vegetables there and loves it. And if it's from another area, he doesn't like eating it. So it's
Ay,
mostly
pareho kami. Pag tuwing kumakain ako, tinatanong ko, saan galing to? Sa atin po. Okay. Maski na hindi ganun kasarap yung papaya ko, pero pag galing sa puno ko, mas masarap. Pag yung aking gulay ay kinakain ko, iba yung sarap ng sarili mong tanim, di ba? Okay, proceed, Rafi.
so like let's say our eggplants, they're very it's they look different. They're stripes, and I think they're much sweeter. So I guess we could actually we probably just feed most of our produce, the vegetables which we use in our household, just comes from the farm, and then majority of it goes to the metro for direct to consumer and direct to business models. And we also do specialty produce. Like as you can see, we try to grow stuff that are not actually grown in the Philippines. We have kohlrabi, we do purple corn, and we have different types of cherry tomatoes, which next slide please. We have the kale, we have Japanese cucumbers and different types of arugula. So these are just mostly the things we grow on the farm.
Saan mo kinukuha yung mga seedling mo? If these are not usually grown in the Philippines, where do you get the seedlings of introduced species of plants?
So let's say for our tomatoes or for our other leafy greens, or let's say more on the fruiting crops. I usually get it from my uncles or my aunts who come home from the US, or my sisters who live in Japan. So we try to plant it, and then we try to wait for the seeds. And then from those seeds, we try to keep on producing more seeds until we have our own batch of locally grown seeds, which is already acclimatized to our area. Let's say for our kale, I mean, there's actually local kale in the Philippines. And as you can see, but we also got kale from the US and we tried seeding them, and they're still in the process. But so far, apparently, hopefully, we'll be able to produce our own seeds. And practically, just put pictures of our farm. And one of our objectives of Teraoka Farms is we really want to give and provide everyone organic produce, be it from different classes, because we want to show that organic farming doesn't have to be that expensive. It could just be affordable, but also how We want the farmers to earn the big bulk of it. And our biggest problem is when majority of the profits from whatever the farmers grow goes to people who actually take advantage of the farmers. And I think that's part of our advocacy in the farm to provide direct to consumer crops, vegetables, and to let our consumers get to know their farmer, because we don't know our farmers. We just go to the palenque and we don't even know where it comes from. So at least people knowing that it comes from our farm, we get to tell our story, how it's grown, how it's cultivated, where you're having no chemicals involved, the traceability, everything I think is a key factor in making this whole industry work.
Very good. Are you in your farm right now, Rafi?
No, I am actually in Manila. I came from the farm and because there's no signal.
Oh, tama. I'm sorry to
Yeah.
take you away from the farm. All of us are away from our little farms, but thank you for sharing. Do you have more pictures? Then we proceed to
No,
Ms. Mendiola, to Stephanie.
no, I
Yes.
think that's just about it.
Thank you so much. Please stay on, just like Enzo is staying on. I hope because there will be more questions later. Stephanie Mendiola. Yes. How old are you, Stephanie? Wait, Rafi, how old are you?
Oh, I'm 33. I started farming at
33.
27 years.
So all of you are in your 20s or 30s. How old is Stephanie? Did I ask
I'm,
that earlier?
yeah, I'm 30. I just turned 30 last
Oh
June.
yeah, you told me that earlier. Yes, and Indy. Okay, so you have a presentation. Show us the crops that you plant in Silang, Cavite.
Okay, so for me, I started my farming journey when I was 26, but I had no knowledge of farming. My dad had this farm in Silang, Cavite that was already functional. And like I said, they were conventional and they were primarily lettuce lang. So my dad said, you can start a business with this. But I didn't know what I was doing. And so to get out of the haciendera kind of model that we usually have here in the Philippines, I went out to the US and started working in organic farms there, where the owners were actually the ones also working on the farm. They were the ones cultivating the farm, and then they went out and did farmers markets every Saturday. And so seeing that whole process alongside the farm manager, you get so much knowledge um, and data from them. So when I got back to the Philippines about 2.5 years ago to three, that's when the process of changing the farm from just lettuce, kale, and arugula to different things. So in the next slide, you'll see we started trying out different crops. Like we tried out on the left hand side, it's the onion leeks. We tried the costoluto tomato, which the Italians usually use. We tried purple corn. We had beets, jalapenos, and so many herbs like dill, basil. But my challenge then was, okay, so I have all of these lovely produce, but who am I going to sell it to? I didn't have a market yet. I didn't have customers that were buying from me yet. I had wholesalers that wanted to get like hundreds of kilos at a time when I was only producing 10, 15 kilos at a time because they were just trials. So it was really a gamble. And that's when I realized that it was a gamble pala to be a farmer. You're gambling on this kind of seed, this much land, and 3 months later, that's when you'll know how much yield you're gonna get and who you're gonna sell it to. So um, after that, after trying so many different produce and growing them and seeing what was okay and what was not, that's when I started to build my market straight to the customer.
How big is your farm? And how big was it when it started, Stephanie?
So it's always been about 1.7 hectares big. We have
Okay.
6 greenhouses, and all of those are really just producing lettuce because during the rainy season, when you produce lettuce, it goes up to a really high price if you have greenhouses. If you don't, then it's you can't grow lettuce at all.
So
And
we
then I
can see really from all the farms that we've had, from 500 square meters to 1 hectare to 1.7, it's not very big farms. So talagang doable ang 1 hectare or even less as long as we maximize and we multi-crop. Okay, continue, Stephanie.
Yeah. So another thing that I felt, you have small space and you can only grow so much crop, that I also realized that you need other partner farms talaga to be able to cater to what the customer wants. So like I said earlier, people were saying, can I have this? Can I have corn? Can I have cucumber? Can I have beets along with your salad greens? But I wasn't growing all of that yet. My farm nor I was not yet efficient enough to grow all of that. So I started partnering up with other farmers that I knew. So Raf was one of the first partners that I had before. All of his extra produce I would also get from him. Enzo and I,
magka-partner pala ang mga guest natin dito.
yeah,
Okay.
so Enzo and I also partnered up. He was getting some lettuce from me and I was getting some stuff from him. And we all had a different customer base. So it wasn't like we were stealing anyone's customers. We were sharing our produce and sharing
Okay.
it with more
Para
people.
lang sa mga, very good, para sa mga nanonood sa atin o nakikinig sa atin na may maliliit na farm gaya natin, tapos hindi nila alam kung saan ibenta. Give us an example of 3 customers that you have. Anong restaurants o mga bahay ba ito? Gaya ba ni board member Dimamay na Facebook lang niya, nauubos na yung kanyang red lady papaya, di ba? Wow, to earn 2,400 a day.
I
Ang
know,
swerte niya, ha?
Yeah. And that's going back to gambling with the seed, the variety that you're growing. See, board member did it right. She got the red lady papaya. Everyone loved it. For my 3 customers though, I actually mostly have subdivisions. So I cater to my subdivision, I cater to 2 and 3 other gated communities because of my logistics. I want my delivery van to only go to this area. When I repack items, I only want to repack items for this area so that it's more efficient. I was looking kasi to streamline my operations. And if I did kasi too many customers in a wide area, it would be hard for me to manage all of the lalam move, the grabs, the pickup points, and things like that. So I started focusing on gated communities, especially in this pandemic, because they're the ones that were.
Are you in your farm now in Silang, Stephanie? Nandyan ka ba sa Silang ngayon?
No, same like Raf. It's the signal there is not good enough.
I know. Kaya nga ang mga background natin o kayo plain white, pero pag sinasabi nyo yung mga ginagawa nyo, sana nakikita ko, gagawa tayo, paano ba ito? Kailangan may pocket wifi tayo, umiikot tayo sa mga farm, habang nag-uusap tayo, nagbubungkal tayo ng lupa. Next time, gagawa tayo ng ganun, ha?
Yeah.
Okay, next slide.
Okay, so next slide. I'll talk about my journey from monocropping to organic farming. Every step of the way posed a different challenge, and it kind of it led one thing to another. So I stopped first using pesticides and fungicides because that's what kills all of the soil life. So by stopping the use of pesticides and fungicides, you're slowly rebuilding the soil. But then I realized, oh shucks, I need compost pala. I need more organic matter. And so step 2, I started implementing more organic fertilizers. But I realized there's not so much available in the market. And if it is, it's super expensive. So we started to make our own concoctions. We needed to make the FPJ, the fish amino acids. We started to need compost, vermicompost. But all of those things, you need labor. Okay, so step 3, it was the labor management. Naman, labor is pretty expensive in Cavite. So I knew I needed revenue in order to keep this business sustainable. And so when I started to think, how am I gonna make money to cover all of the labor, the organic fertilizers, and to rebuild the soil and make a good farm, I started to plan my crop more efficiently, or I started to plan it according to what the market wanted. And I started marketing heavily what my produce was. So if I had an overstock of cucumbers that time, then I would blast it out as like any other commercial or any other marketing effort would do. They would focus their marketing on that produce or put it on sale. So
Stephanie, ano ang pinakagusto na gulay o produkto o ng ating ng customers mo?
lately I've been getting a lot of juicers. Okay, so celery has been a big hit lately because they juice the celery, and if I'm out, they get really upset with me. But kale and lettuce is still a really
yung mga
takes up
pang
a big
salad at yung mga pang juice, lalo na sa panahon ngayon ng pandemic, pang boost ng immune system.
Yes.
Okay. Sige, next step.
Okay. So for the next slide, I could do all the planning I want and all the marketing I want, but if in the end I have no produce because of natural disasters or because of pests, I still absorb all of the losses. So part of the challenge for me from monocropping to organic farming with diverse crops was number one, scaling organic farming with a lack of commercially available resources. So compost being the most fundamental of organic farming, there's really no place to buy it. When I was interning around the US, they had truckloads of compost that you could get from a company called Recology. And they were putting that on top of their beds every year. We don't have anything like that. So organic farmers are forced to make their own, but it's really tough actually making compost from scratch. It's a long process to know how to make it, and to know how to make it for a 1.7 hectare farm is kind of it's a challenge. And so number two, farmers nowadays don't really have the know-how anymore to be organic or natural. We have a generation of farmers becoming heavily reliant on synthetic fertilizers because that's what's available in the market, and that's what that's what's faster. You put urea on your kale, it will become greener and bigger within the next few days. But if you put vermicast on your kale, it will take a few weeks before it gets more malago. So a lot of the farmers have gone to the synthetic fertilizers because it's faster. And so nowadays you try to rally farmers to go back to organic, but they've somehow forgotten what organic is. And so the third biggest challenge, like I mentioned earlier, was all the calamities, all the bad harvests are always shouldered by the farmers. So you have very small margins when you're selling gulay. But like what Enzo said kanina, you're affected the most. So like earlier this January, my farm was within the radius of the Taal Ash eruption or Taal volcano eruption. And so my whole farm was covered in ash. Everything we were growing for
I can see the picture in black and white. Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
it's actually not black and white. That was the picture.
I mean, correct. It looks like a black and white picture.
Yeah, exactly. So I had a lot of people that I shared this photo to, and they said, "Wow, it's like you're back in time." But so in this situation, you plant so many things, and you're about to be ready for harvest, and then this happens. We shoulder everything, and we replant again because that's the only thing that we can do is replant. There's no support from the system to be able to regrow from this. This is just your individual effort. So in the rightmost or the other end is the greenhouses. Maintaining greenhouses is actually very, very expensive. So
but we see that greenhouses need not be expensive, need not be high-tech. Pwedeng may screen lang at mga tungkod ng recycled wood o kakawate o maski na mga bamboo. Di ba?
Yeah.
Yan, I think yung pinakita kanina, was it Rafi or Enzo who showed us, dahil lahat naman pwedeng rin-resikulo, hindi naman kailangan ng high-tech galing sa mga magagarang kumpanya. Everything can actually be innovation, slow low technology, and that's what I do in my farm, but that I will do that for another time, not during the millennial young farmers time. Let me just allow me to just read some of our Facebook messages that I'm not able to do all the time. Let me just also inform everyone that we are giving away our books on protected areas, on the protected areas of the Philippines. We're also giving away DA, Department of Agriculture, starter kits. In the past weeks, we've been giving away starter kits, and nag-Facebook yung mga recipients na nag-grow na ang kanilang mga tanim. Okay. Apple Francisco, good morning. Antoinette Acantilado, Josie Ramos, Marisa Cariaga, Jobert Catanos. Good morning from Cibalo, Wow, Antique Angela Dacones, Jose Rafi of Teraoka Farms, more power, okay? Lilibeth Omadle Saturnino, good morning from Caloocan. Trina Razon from Teraoka, very good. They're watching all the way in Pangasinan. Franz Bisueño Garion, good morning. DS Legarda and SP Karmila Rose Dimamay. I believe you're from Antique. Ronalisa Alegado La Campra, good morning. Wow, so interesting session. Yes, it's all interesting, especially when we learn from our young farmers. Andre Untal from San Jose Antique. You know, he watches, I remember this, he watches all the time. Thank you. Ferdinand Peralta, good morning. Dan Mari, good morning. Narcisa Guevara, God bless. She Morales, God bless. From Antique, Alfonso Cabrera, Sumadsad, at I'll read later, but I'd like to finish the art cards or the slides of Stephanie. But if you're done, Stephanie, yes. So,
yeah, in the end, I just wanted to focus on being able to be a sustainable farm. And sustainability means having a business model. You know, I came into this kasi thinking that I could plant, and then it would sell itself. But, you know, it proved much more of a challenge. And then maintaining all of the capital or infrastructure that the farm had. So, you know, it's a lot of math, and I'm not very good at math, but I had to learn because I have to feed 15 farmers in my farm. So I want for young farmers, sana, if they want to get into farming, I feel like the best way to kind of get into it is plant your own stuff. But if you want to start feeding a lot of people, why don't you start farming with people that are already farming and learn from them, kind of have that relationship.
Very
and
good.
when you learn from someone that's been doing it for several years, that's a lot of experience that you're kind of cutting the learning curve na rin.
Now that you mentioned that, I hope my staff is ready. I just want to show you just random photos and I'll explain what it is. Are we ready? When you flash the picture, I'll tell you what it is. Okay. Nagtatanim ako ng sari-saring gulay. Hindi malinis yung aking plot dahil ako lang at isang babae. Meron akong kale, meron akong romaine lettuce, meron green eyes, nagtatanim din ako ng adlay para hindi na ako kailangan kumain ng kanin, at meron din akong corn ngayon. Pero nakita nyo, nagtatanim din ako ng mga bulaklak dahil mahilig ako sa bulaklak, at maski anong bulaklak, yung bignonia, yung nasa upper left-hand side. We had rows and rows of lettuce before, and I hardly use water from the tap. Sana lahat ng ating millennial farmers ay merong water catchment. Pakita ko sa picture mamaya, ako mismo ang naggawa with one farmhand ng ating water catchment. Ayan. Yung aking greenhouse ay recycled lang yan mula sa mga tubo at mga aluminum na mga luma sa luma naming mga bintana sa Malabon dati. At gumawa lang akong maliit dahil wala akong pondo para bumili ng magarang greenhouse. So kami gumagawa. Tapos ako, I save seeds. Sa bawat buto na aking iniipon, gaya nito, pakita ko sa inyo, ito, buto ng bignay, walang sayang. This is recycled plastic, ha. Ito naman, buto ng ampalaya. Ayan, buto ng ampalaya. Yan. Walang sayang at bawal na bawal sa akin, kasalanan ang magtapon. Dahil ang food waste ay tinatapon at ginagawang organic compost. Ang buto ng lahat, gaya ng Roselle flower, which I'll show you later. Pero itong hawak kong ito, ini-inspection ko yung tinanim pa ng lola ko na coffee trees. Ang lola ko ay small farmer, mas maliit pa sa inyong lahat. Small farmer ang lola, at nagtanim siya ng coffee trees at saka sayote. At may biro ako, nung bata ako, yung sayote hina-harvest niya, ginagawa niyang apple pie, sayote pie, sinasabi niya sa amin apple pie. Ngayon natuklasan ko na yung totoong lasa ng apple pie at hindi sayote pie. Anyway, so yan, nandyan ako sa aking makeshift greenhouse. Hindi yan high-tech, kami-kami lang ang gumawa. At totoo yan, sa panahon ngayon ng tag-ulan, meron pa rin akong kale, meron akong lechugas, meron akong iba't ibang bulaklak, pero syempre yung mga coffee trees yan ay exposed din. At next picture please. Ayan, yan ako sa tuktok ng water catchment. Pinili ko lang yung lugar, ako ang nagtayo. Yung alulod ng isang maliit na recycled house, linagyan ko ng connection sa isang catchment na yung tubig ulan ang ginagamit namin sa pagdilig ng halaman. Ayan. Tapos ako'y nakapayong dahil maski umuulan, nag-iinspeksyon ng kape kung kailan pwedeng mangolekta at walang sayang. Pati ang kape, hina-harvest ng kamay at pinapatuyo at ginigiling at talagang slow food. Ayan. Ayan, ito naman sa Antique, yan ay sa bahay ni Governor Tibiao at nag-harvest. I think that is cauliflower that I was harvesting in her garden. Tapos sa ilalim, nakita nyo, yan ay basil. Meron din akong talinum. Meron din akong, di ko makita sa mata ko. Sa basil, ang basil, I eat it with salads, pesto, etc. Meron akong kalabasa at meron akong eggplants. Yung tama kayo, ang eggplant, hindi kailangan mataba at magaganda. In fact, ang mga organic na mga tanim ay hindi magandang itsura pero organic. Yan ay Tower Garden, galing sa Down to Earth, si Paula Aberasturi and Nicole Aberasturi. Sa mga walang spasyo masyado ay nagbenta ng Tower Garden kung saan halo-halo ang mga tanim natin. Dahil hanggang sa aking roof, walang sayang. Sa aking maliit na roof space ay meron akong Tower Garden. Yan, nag-harvest ako ng broccoli and cauliflower. Hindi ko farm yan, hindi kasing taba yung farm ko, sa bahay yan ni Governor Tibiao sa Antique. Do we have another picture? Ayan ang harvest ko. Luyang dilaw, turmeric, kasi araw-araw yan ang aking iniinom. Hindi ko kailangan bumili ng turmeric pills dahil presko at organic ang aking luyang dilaw. Katabi niyan, meron akong iba't ibang mga sili. May siling haba, meron akong labuyo, meron akong iba't ibang mga gulay, merong konting rambutan. Yung dragon fruit, kala ko yan hindi mag-grow sa Silang, Tagaytay area kasi galing yan sa Cagayan, sa aking nanay. Ang aking 86 years old na nanay na Ilocana, yung yaya ko, nag-uwi lang ng ilang tiklis at namatay nang namatay. Pero nung linagyan ko ng tungkod, ngayon, ang laki niya, siguro mga 500 square meter na space, if I'm not mistaken, na puro dragon fruit at bare siya ng bare ng fruit. Kaya magtiyaga lang tayo. Meron din akong mabolo at meron akong durian at meron akong lemon at saka passion fruit. Yung nakikita nyo, yan ay roselle. Yung dahon ng roselle, kinakain din yan. Of course, yung roselle fruit, yan ay kinakain at yung buto, gaya ng pinakita sa inyo, sinesave. Ang roselle, ginagawa yung jam, ginagawa yung roselle tea, napakasarap niyan at saka mahal yan ibenta. I think 500 pesos per kilo ang roselle. Ayan, itong example ng aking mga kinakain. Yan ang blue ternate flower, gumagapang yan, napakadali niyan itanim. Yung binanggit nyo, pag may overproduction ka ng pepino, ayan, Stephanie, ako kinakain ko palagi pepino, arugula, yun. Tapos yung tanglad, ang dali-dali, alam naman nyo, ang lemongrass, parang halaman lang yan, parang weed grass lang yan gaya ng citronella. Ang citronella, syempre hindi ko kinakain yan, pampakontra lamok. Pero yung aking tanglad, kasama nung aking dahon ng sili, at ang luyang puti, nagtatanim din ako, at ang aking papaya para sa aking tinola. Manok na lang ang hindi akin, pero organic lang ang kinakain ko. Tapos yung brown rice, hindi akin, pero soon magtatanim na rin ako ng rice, pero adlay ako'y nagtatanim. O may picture pa ba tayo dyan? Do we have more pictures? Ayan. Ito yung aking kape. Ito yung kape na puno na tinanim ng aking lola at ako mismo at saka yung isa lang na farmhand ko ang nag-harvest ng kape. Tapos kami ang nagtutuyo. Simple lang, sa semento lang, tinutuyo namin. Tapos sa isang antigong bayuhan galing sa Ifugao, kami ang nagbabayo at kami mismo ang nag-roast. Alam ko masalimuot yung proseso, pero gusto ko talaga low-tech at saka slow food ganun ako Kasi una, wala naman akong budget pang makina kasi gusto ko talaga yung galing lang sa amin. Tapos pangalawa, gusto ko natututo kami at naaamoy ko habang ako'y nagbabayo at habang rino-roast namin. Tapos yan yung aking kape. O may picture pa ba tayo? Ay, wala na. Marami akong binigay na picture, ba't hindi nyo pinakita? Pwede pa nyo ihabol, ba't hindi nyo binigay? Yung tinext ko sa aking staff. Ang dami-dami kong pictures. Anyway, but there's not enough time. Are you able to show pictures? Now, my takeaway from all of this is farming is enjoyable. Farming is productive. Farming is fruitful. And farming can be a sustainable enjoyable enterprise, right? So may I hear just last words from Enzo, from Stephanie, from Rafi. Instead of me saying the last words, just a few last words to millennials watching us and the non-millennials too, who would like to do farming. Yes, Enzo, are you still there? Or if it's not there, Stephanie, please.
So farming really is enjoyable. It's something that you kind of have this childlike experience every day where something blooms, something fruits, and you can eat it. It's amazing. And if ever you want to start farming, it's always best to start with a community because they will really support you through every endeavor and every question that you have. They will help you, especially in the Filipino setting, because you can ask Google all you want, but in the Filipino setting, it's always different because of the environment or the humidity and all of these things. So look for your community, look for your farming community, find out who your farmer is, get into farming because it's very, very fruitful now.
Thank you very much, Stephanie Mendiola, who evolved from being a traditional monocrop farmer to multi-cropping and now is a millennial farmer in Cavite. Good luck, and hopefully post-pandemic, we can share each other's farming practices, and I can visit your farm as well if I'm welcome there in all your farms. Okay, and Rafi in Teraoka Farms, Bokashi method is being used from 500 square meters to 6 hectares, sharing it with your lolo and your parents. Rafi, say goodbye and say some words of advice to young farmers.
Yeah, I'd just like to encourage more people, especially the youth, to get into farming. I mean, sometimes, yes, it may seem not glamorous. You might shed a lot of blood, and blood, sweat, tears, frustrations. But it's all about the passion. If you want to get into farming, you should have passion. You should have the drive. Because it's gonna get you somewhere. It's gonna get you to where you want to be in the farming industry. Me and my fellow young farmers, we all have this whole persevering attitude wherein we wanna just keep on going because people have to do it. Whether if no one would plant or if no one would get into farming, how would we eat? And I think that's what's important. We have to know how to grow our own food and also give respect to farmers because they're doing a good job, and they're without them, we wouldn't be even surviving. Also, I guess if we plant and also respect our land and respect our soil and respect the places we farm in, we'll be able to reap its benefits. We should plant trees to give more um, what do you call this, organic matter to your plants, and it's all about a whole relationship between nature and man, because we are all plant and humans. For me, I believe we're just one. We're just one whole biodiversity. And if you want to get into farming, go for it. We have a lot of young farmers who are trying their best, and we're all here. We're all here to help you guys. Just give us a message, and we'll gladly help you guys.
Very good. Okay. Do you also mentor? Because ang dami ko ngayon messages, they have 10 hectares. My God, tayo nga maliliit, less than 1 hectare pa. Sino sa inyo ang maaring mag-mentor even virtually kung anong pwedeng itanim? Ito may nag-text sa akin sa Facebook, meron daw 10 hectares sa Bataan. Kung pwede raw turuan ko. Hay nako, paano ko tuturuan? Ang dami kong trabaho. I can refer them to Teraoka because you give virtual lectures.
Yeah, since we are actually TESDA accredited by TESDA, and we are an extension provider of the Department of Agriculture, we could give trainings, and we give seminars also. But if during before this pandemic happened, we do farm visits and we teach them basic farming 101s just to get them going. But we encourage you, yeah, you have 10 hectares, but maybe you could start small. That's how we started. Start small.
Learn how to compost first.
Yeah, learn how to
Exactly. I'm glad you mentioned. Okay, just to end this because we're 30 minutes over time, but this is learn to compost. Yan ang pinakamahalaga. Huwag bibili na. Mag-compost. Paano? Lahat ng food waste, ibaon sa lupa. Pagbaon sa lupa, lagyan din ng dry leaves, ng twigs, para hindi langawin at hindi bahaya ng anumang mga hayop. At bungkalin ang lupa. At sa ilang buwan, yan ay magiging organic fertilizer. That's my way of composting. Ano pa ang basura natin? Bote, lata, plastic. Hihiwain mo yung mga litro o yung mga bote, lata, at dyan lalagay ang mga seeds na sinasave. Ito, pati lychee seeds na nag-order ako ay aming sinesave. Walang sayang. Bawal na bawal sa akin. Hanggang papaya seeds. Ayan. Tuyot na papaya seeds. So all of this are planted. Pati mga buto ng sili ay aking iniipon. Walang sayang. Save your seeds. Ang food waste at mga dry leaves at twigs ay ilalagay sa compost pit na binabaon sa lupa para sa organic compost. So everything starts with ecological solid waste management. Ang paghihiwalay ng basura sa nabubulok at hindi nabubulok. Yung nabubulok, yung food waste ay ginagawang organic compost. Pag meron ka ng fertilizer organic compost at ikaw pa ay nag-save ng mga buto, kumuha ka lang ng naresikulong mga lalagyan, at itanim mo doon. At sisibol yan. At yung sisibol na seedling, itanim sa lupa. Ayan, nagsimula ka na sa isang tanim. Pero kung gusto mo yung mas mabilis, ay pwedeng bumili ka na lang ng mga buto or seedling at magtanim ka na. Kasi yung akin, yung slow. But those who are impatient can buy their own seeds. Okay. So thank you very much to our young farmers, to our aspiring farmers, to all those who are viewing. Thank you to Board Member Dimamay. Thank you to Raphael Dacones, to Enzo, and to Stephanie Mendiola, and to the Climate Change Commission, the Department of Agriculture, and our partners, the Mother Earth Foundation. Sonia Mendoza is helping us in the implementation of the ecological solid waste management. Our climate reality leaders are watching us. They're with us at the Institute of Climate and Sustainable Cities. We should grow our own food. Thank you very much. Keep safe. God bless. Isang lunti ang umaga sa ating lahat. Sa akon mga kasimanwa sa Antique, palangga ko